Welcome to IAS project. In this video, let's talk about political organization in later Vedic period. We know that in later Vedic period, iron was used. So, in the later Vedic literature, iron has been referred to as Krishna Ayas or Shyama Ayas. Both the words Krishna as well as Shyama actually mean dark. That is why iron has also been called as dark metal. Please try to remember this fact. We already know that in the early Vedic literature, we have found the word Ayas. And in early Vedic literature, Ayas generally meant metal. However, during early Vedic period, iron tools were not there. That is why whenever early Vedic literature said Ayas, it generally meant copper or bronze. Moreover, copper has been called as Lohita Ayas in Vedic literature. Please remember these words. Ayas in the case of early Vedic literature generally meant copper and bronze. However, in the later Vedic period, iron was used. That is why iron was specifically called as Krishna Ayas or Shyama Ayas, which simply translates to dark metal. In our previous lecture, we have talked about PGW culture. PGW simply means painted graveware pottery. We have seen that the location of PGW culture was mainly the Saraswati river valley as well as the Ganga Yamuna Doab. That is why PGW culture mostly coincides with the Kuru Panchala kingdom. We have already seen the location of Kuru and Panchala kingdoms. Moreover, these PGW sites also reveal the development of agriculture as well as pastoralism within the Indian subcontinent. Around 1500 BCE, Aryans entered the Indian subcontinent and these Aryans were mainly pastoralist people. However, when research was done at PGW sites, we have found the development of agriculture as well as pastoralism. We know that agriculture was mainly associated with later Vedic period. Agriculture was also done in early Vedic period, but in early Vedic period pastoralism was more important. However, in the case of later Vedic period, agriculture became more important than pastoralism. So that is why most PGW sites correspond to later Vedic period. Moreover, the PGW culture also shows that settlements have increased in size. Or we can say these settlements grew in their dimension. When settlements grew in their dimension, it simply means that the population of North India also increased during PGW phase. Moreover, the increase was very rapid. So this is very important to observe here because when Aryans came into Gangetic plains, they cut down forests by using iron axes and after this, they started development of agriculture. Because of development of agriculture, the size of settlements increased and the population of settlements also increased. So overall, the population of North India also increased greatly during PGW phase. Let's talk a little bit more about iron. In case of North India, iron is first associated with PGW culture. However, in the case of Peninsular India and South India, it is mainly associated with megalithic burial mounds. This video is mainly about later Vedic period. That is why I am only giving you a brief knowledge about megalithic burial mounds here. So some of the important megalithic burial sites in India are mostly located in South India. Please note that megalithic sites are found everywhere within India. However, most of the sites are located in South India. For example, Hallur and Maski in Karnataka, Nagarjunakonda in Andhra Pradesh and Adichanallur in Tamil Nadu are some of the famous examples for megalithic sites in South India. In these megalithic burial sites, we have also found black and red ware pottery, iron artifacts such as hoes and sickles, and also some small weapons made of iron were also found. Let me show you some pictures of megalithic sites and megalithic burials. We already discussed that megalith simply means large stone. Mega is nothing but large and lith means stone. That is why megalith is large stone. We have also studied previously that megalithic constructions are mainly of two types. The first type is sepulchral megalith and the second type is non-sepulchral megalith. In sepulchral megaliths, we find dead bodies or we can say we find burials. But in case of non-sepulchral megaliths, we do not find burials. So this is the main difference between sepulchral megaliths and non-sepulchral megaliths. In India, we have found megaliths of both types. Megalithic construction can also be divided into the type of construction, okay? For example, menhirs, dolmenoid cists, etc. Anyway, we will not go into details of megalithic construction at this point, but for example, you can see pictures here. Both these are found in India, whereas the third picture here is a famous megalith construction that is found in England. It is called as Stonehenge. You must have seen Stonehenge in pictures and movies. Let's go forward. So usage of iron started somewhere around 1000 BCE in India. Please note that the latest research is showing that the usage of iron started somewhere around 1300 BCE in India. But most of the evidences that we find say that iron has been used in India from somewhere around 1000 BCE onwards. So you can write any of these in your mains exam. So Aryans made iron axes using the iron, and these iron axes were used for clearing the forests and also to make iron weapons. These iron weapons along with chariots were used to defeat the adversaries of Aryans. So this was the case mostly in Kuru and Panchala kingdoms. But in the case of eastern India, that is nothing but Kosala and Videha, iron tools started to be used a little late compared to their usage in Kuru and Panchala kingdom. For example, if we say iron was used somewhere between 1000 BCE and 1300 BCE in Kuru Panchala kingdom, then in the case of Kosala and Videha, iron was used somewhere around 7th century BCE. So we can say almost 400 years of difference is there here. During excavations, we have found more than 1000 PGW sites. PGW sites simply mean later Vedic period sites. However, most of these sites are actually located in Upper Gangetic Basin. We already know that Upper Gangetic Basin is one of the most heavily populated areas in the world. That is why many of these sites were not excavated properly. Only few sites were excavated. For example, Bhagwanpura, Hastinapura, Mathura and some other sites. Moreover, most of these PGW sites were occupied for the first time ever in the case of later Vedic period. What does this mean? It means that before later Vedic period, most of these sites were not occupied by people. Why? Because before later Vedic period, people were mainly living in Chalcolithic age. We already know that in the case of Chalcolithic age, people did not prefer to live in the plains because in the plains, stone was not easily available to Chalcolithic people. So Chalcolithic people were mainly living in hills and river valleys. That is why these people did not settle in the plains. So when the later Vedic Aryans came into Ganges plains and its tributaries, then they were the first people to settle in many of these sites. Not all of these sites, but in many of these sites. Now let's talk about political organization during later Vedic period. Particularly, let's talk about kingdoms. We already have learned that 5 kingdoms were very important during later Vedic period. They were nothing but Kuru, Panchala, Kosala, Videha and Kasi. We have already seen the location of these 5 kingdoms also. The region of Delhi is nothing but Kuru. Panchala is the region of western Uttar Pradesh. We have Kosala, which is nothing but the eastern part of Uttar Pradesh. We also have Videha, which is nothing but the northern part of Bihar. We also have Kasi, which is south of Kosala. Now let's talk briefly about these kingdoms. So Delhi and western Uttar Pradesh were mostly Kuru Panchala area, whereas Punjab and Haryana were Madra area and Rajasthan was the Matsya area. All these areas have been known to have PGW pottery. So Kuru Panchala region is nothing but Delhi and western Uttar Pradesh, and this basically forms the part of Indo-Gangetic divide and also the upper Ganga valley. I have already told you Indo-Gangetic divide is basically the area that is lying between the river systems of Indus and Ganga. For example, if this is Indus river and its tributaries and this is Ganga and its tributaries, then this area is basically called as the Indo-Gangetic divide. And this Indo-Gangetic divide is basically the Kuru Panchala region. During the later Vedic period, kingdoms became larger. And when kingdoms became larger, the power of the king has also increased. And why did the kingdoms become large? Because in the case of early Vedic period, people belonging to a single tribe came together and formed a small kingdom. But in the case of later Vedic period, people belonging to different tribes came together and they formed a kingdom. And this kingdom has been called as Rashtra and also it has been called as Janapada. So we can say the later Vedic period word for kingdom is called as Janapada and also Rashtra. We must also observe at this point that both these words actually refer to the word territory in later Vedic period. This is very important because in the case of early Vedic period, we did not have a concept of territory because people were mainly belonging to tribe and their loyalty was also towards their tribe. Moreover, in the case of early Vedic period, there was only the word of Jana. The word Janapada did not exist in Rig Vedic literature, but the word Janapada, it appears in later Vedic literature. The word Janapada is made up of two words, okay? Jana means people and Pada means feet. So the word Janapada literally means where the people set its foot or where the tribe set its foot. I hope this is clear. In Rig Veda, the word Janapada does not appear, but in the case of later Vedic literature, Janapada appears. In the case of later Vedic period, the word Janapada and the word Rashtra both refer to the territory or the kingdom. Alright. Now let's talk about the king. In the case of early Vedic period, it was mainly the tribal authority. But in the case of later Vedic period, this tribal authority now became a territorial authority. That is why the power of king also increased. And this king had a power over a large territory. Moreover, the words like Samrat and also Samrajya were used in later Vedic literature. The word Samrat actually means emperor. It is not a king. What is the difference between king and emperor? King basically rules over a kingdom, whereas an emperor rules over entire empire. And empire is very large compared to kingdom. That is why emperor is more powerful compared to a king. Moreover, a single emperor can also have many kings who are under him. So that is why when a king becomes an emperor, his prestige as well as ambition increases. So in the case of later Vedic period, the words Samrat and Samrajya were used. This suggests that the power as well as the ambition of the king has also increased because now king started to call himself as emperor. Moreover, these kings also used fancy titles like Raja Vishwarajan, Akhila Bhuvanapati, Ekrat and Samrat. Raja Vishwarajan means the Raja of kings who are there in the entire world. Akhila Bhuvanapati also means Lord of all the earth. Ekrat means the sole emperor or the sole king. Samrat means the supreme king or we can say emperor. So this is how the kings used fancy titles for themselves to increase their power, prestige and ambition. Moreover, the king was also considered as the preserver of social order. This is also very important. We have not yet discussed what was the social order that was existing during later Vedic period. We will discuss that in the society chapter of later Vedic period. However, we must note that Raja was considered as the preserver of social order. It means that Raja was to see that the social order did not change. For example, the Varna based system or let's say the Ashrama system or the Dharma of the society were to be preserved by the king. Moreover, king also performed various rituals and sacrifices to strengthen his position. Some of these rituals and sacrifices were Rajasuya, which is also called as consecration ceremony, Vejapeya, which is also called as chariot race or a drink of strength, and he also performed Ashvamedha, which was basically a horse sacrifice. We have already talked briefly about Ashvamedha sacrifice, where a king releases a horse and if any other king stops that horse, then he has to go to war. Ashvamedha sacrifice basically means that the king now got unopposed power in the larger area or let's say larger territory. Similarly, in the case of Vejapeya sacrifice also, the king conducted a chariot race with all his tribesmen, and when the king won that chariot race, his power increased and his prestige increased. The most important sacrifice was Rajasuya sacrifice. Rajasuya sacrifice is nothing but consecration ceremony. Consecration simply means making something sacred. So by conducting Rajasuya sacrifice, king became sacred. It simply means that king became something like a god. And all these sacrifices were very elaborate sacrifices. For example, Puranas say that Rajasuya sacrifice took 3 years to complete. So you can simply imagine that for 3 years, the king was conducting rituals, yagna and sacrifices. So after this elaborate sacrifice procedure, king increased his prestige as well as power. And not only that, by conducting all these sacrifices, king also impressed his people that he is following the Vedic culture and he is also conducting rituals and sacrifices in order to please the gods. That is why these sacrifices also increased the religious authority of the king on his people. Please like and subscribe. You can download this presentation from our Telegram channel. The name of the channel is IAS Project. The link for this channel has been given in the description section below. Thank you.